The little girl never imagined that a greedy goblin would actually set its sights on someone under 18 like her. She was desperate to escape this nightmare, but the goblin was already lunging at her. Right at that critical moment, a figure silently stepped in front of her. Though his frame looked so lean and fragile, he stood firm, resolutely blocking out the darkness closing in on her. In that moment, his eyes shone bright, becoming the only light in her world. After saving her, the young man even tenderly treated her wounds. To the girl in that moment, this big brother was the most handsome man in the entire world. Since she wasn't 18 yet, she made a promise to him. As soon as she turned 18, she would come and find him immediately. By then, she vowed to become strong enough to protect his entire world. From that day on, the girl began running 10,000 kilometers every day and doing 100,000 kilometers of weighted sprints. She threw a million punches at wooden dummies. Even though she got hurt every day, she kept looking forward to the day she'd meet her hero again. Finally, the girl turned 18, having grown into an elite martial artist. So when she finally tracked him down again, she followed him without a single second of hesitation. But to her absolute shock, the man who once guarded her world was now despised by everyone. When she asked to party up with him, the whole room froze in disbelief. Before long, even the receptionist at the Adventurers Guild rushed over to stop her. She told her that this guy was just useless rust. As a healer, he couldn't even cast area of effect heals, let alone high-level magic. Just recently, a party called Thunderfire Sword took him in only to kick him out of the group immediately. Apparently, he couldn't even use a basic detox spell that even a dog could learn. Since then, his incompetence became common knowledge to everyone. Nobody was willing to party with him. And on top of that, the guy didn't have a penny to his name. If she teamed up with him, she'd probably end up starving with nothing to eat but the cold wind. But after waiting until 18, the girl wasn't about to be talked out of it by a few words. She pulled out all her savings on the spot, declaring she'd just take care of him herself. Seeing her resolve, the receptionist had nothing left to say and reluctantly handed over the party application form. As they filled it out, Rust signed his name without hesitation, while the girl just stared at him totally love-struck. Oh man, he looks better every time I see him. He's so cute. I just want to marry him right here, right now. Seriously, he's just too adorable. After paying the registration fee, the two got ready to head out. There was a massive dungeon nearby where magic energy was leaking out. Monsters were popping up all over the surrounding area, with the weakest ones being out in the western grasslands. Since it was her first adventure, Rust should have taken her there. But he figured the grasslands were too wide open, making it a pain to track monsters down. So he decided to take her straight into the dungeon. After all, as long as they didn't go too deep, it should be safe enough. Once they arrived, the girl insisted on walking in front to protect him. Rust could only give a helpless smile at her enthusiasm. Still, he was a bit worried would she be able to handle her very first adventure. But he soon realized he had nothing to worry about. She was so fired up that the monsters in the dungeon didn't stand a chance. She took down all the goblins with just 2.5 punches. Rust gathered the dropped mana stones, thinking they'd bring in a bit of cash. But to make the big bucks, they'd need to take down stronger beasts. Still selling these would at least cover their horses and a place to stay. As they pushed further in, Rust suddenly grabbed her and pulled her back. He noticed a floor tile that was a different color. Sure enough, when he tossed a pebble on it, a trap triggered instantly, revealing a pit of sharp spikes and old bones. It was clear many people had already fallen victim to that deadly trap. The girl was a bit confused. Usually only a thief class can spot traps like that. So how did a healer like him see it coming? Rust just told her that after adventuring for so long, he'd simply picked up a few extra skills along the way. She figured that's just how all adventurers were and didn't think much of it. But suddenly, an orc appeared right in front of them. Rust was puzzled. Why was a mid-level monster hanging around the outer area? He figured if they worked together, they could win, so she charged in first. But surprisingly, the orc was terrifyingly strong. Her attacks didn't even leave a single scratch on him. Instead, a casual swing from the orc injured her arm. The second strike left her pinned with absolutely nowhere to run. But just as the orc was about to finish her off the blow, she expected never came. That handsome figure was once again standing right in front of her. She couldn't believe it. Rust took the orc down with a single effortless strike. This only made her more determined to marry him one day. But she couldn't help wondering, is he really just a healer? Rust simply repeated that he'd just learned a little bit of combat after being an adventurer for so long. This little scratch is nothing. Before she can even voice her doubts, he starts healing her injuries right then and there. She gives him a beaming smile. After packing up the materials from the orc, the two of them head straight to the Adventurers Guild to sell their loot. Even the receptionist is floored. He can't believe they managed to bag 2.5 pounds of mana stones in just 2.5 short hours. But hey, he's not complaining. He gets a nice commission every time someone sells mana stones at his counter. Before long, he plops a heavy bag of gold coins down right in front of them. Our hero is stunned. He had no idea those stones were worth so much. This is over 20 times what he used to make back at the Thunderfire Sword Guild. Thinking about his old life just leaves him speechless. Man, what a total ripoff. It's clear the Thunderfire Sword Guild was playing him for a fool. His new partner is furious and demands that the receptionist help him get some payback. But in the end, it's up to him. He just gives a helpless shrug and says, the past is the past. Honestly, with a teammate like her, he's already more than satisfied. Little do they know, as they walk out of the guild, a mysterious man is watching his every move from the shadows. The guy goes straight to the front desk and demands to know how a loser like him actually managed to find someone to party up with. After learning that his new partner is a girl with blue hair, the man walks away looking deep in thought. Meanwhile, now that they've got some cash to burn, he takes her to an inn to book a room. She gets all flustered, thinking things are finally moving to the next level. But then he asks for 2 separate rooms. All she can do is watch him walk into his own room with a disappointed pout. Once she's alone in her room, a wave of frustration hits her. I mean, sure, I grew a bit, my clothes are different, and my hair is a new color. But how can he still not recognize me? She's still as flat as a board, which is such a dead giveaway. Is he really that blind? What's even more frustrating is how insanely strong he's become. She feels almost useless, but she quickly tries to shake those negative thoughts away. How can she be so pessimistic? She's finally 18 years old now. Whatever she's planned, she's going to see it through to the very end. I have to get stronger. The monsters finally caught up to those trash teammates, and he watched with his own eyes as they were torn apart. He somehow made it out of the dungeon alive, but he was ready to give up on being an adventurer forever. That is, until he stumbled upon a child being attacked by goblins. Without a single thought, he rushed in to save them, but he ended up getting blindsided by a goblins club. By the time he finally woke up, it was already pitch black outside. The knights had already arrived and wiped out the goblins. He felt ashamed that he wasn't the one who actually saved her. He felt like a total failure, but then the girl actually apologized to him. She told him that because he fought so hard, she was able to hold out until the knights finally showed up to help. She said he looked really cool back there. Noticing her arm was hurt, he quickly moved in to heal her. But that was all he could do. After he told her about the nightmare he went through earlier that day, she was absolutely livid. How could anyone use a real person as live bait? Because of that, the girl decided she'd become an adventurer when she grew up. That way, she could join his party and protect him. He knew she was a high-class noble, and that it was probably impossible, but her words gave him the courage to keep going. Later, he met his master and trained non-stop. Even though his skills as a healer didn't really get any better, he mastered every other essential skill an adventurer needs. Eventually, a blonde guy invited him to join his squad. He never expected he'd be the scapegoat for such a bunch of losers so soon. Still, he's grateful to that girl from his past. Without her, he never would have met his current teammate. Today, he plans to take Sina on a much more dangerous adventure. It's Sina's first time seeing a teleportation circle in a dungeon. She thinks it can just take them anywhere they want to go. Little does she know these circles need an exit point. You can only teleport to places that already have a matching circle set up. Teleportation technology is a lost art these days. No one left alive knows how to create a brand new one. This time they've reached the middle floors, so the monsters are much more powerful. Sina tries to charge a lich, but he quickly shouts for her to stay back. He explains that a lich is an incorporeal monster, meaning physical attacks won't do a damn thing to it. Since neither of them can use offensive magic, it's a total nightmare to deal with. He suggests making a run for it, but Sina is confident she can smash it. So he draws the aggro to keep the lich busy, creating the perfect opening for Sina to strike. You see, with the right training, humans can control a mysterious power inside them called chakra. Even martial artists can master it. Sina coats her fist in chakra and obliterates the lich with a single massive blow. But because it was her first time, she ends up with a pretty nasty injury on her arm. He immediately starts casting a healing spell using a magical tool that significantly boosts his recovery power. The mana stones collected by adventurers are recovered by the guild and handed over to skilled craftsmen. Once they're processed into magic tools, they head right back into the adventurer's hands. Before long, Sina's injuries are completely healed up. Sina is so pumped, exclaiming that a mana stone this huge has got to be worth a fortune. The receptionist is all smiles. It looks like another day of fat commissions for her. Our guy suggests they go out for a nice meal today. Seeing him order a drink, Sina tries to act all grown up and says she wants one too. Just then, Sina notices a strange white building outside of town. It's hard to tell exactly what it's supposed to be. Our lead had actually asked the locals about it before. But the weird part is, even the craftsmen working on it have no idea what they're building, and nobody even knows who the real client is. Word is, the blueprints and the funds were all brought in by an agent. On top of that, there's an agent behind that agent. It's like a never-ending mystery meant to keep the mastermind in the shadows. Since the thing seems harmless, everyone just lets it go, figuring it's just some rich weirdo's pet project. Our guy, however, thinks that money would have been better spent building city walls. This city is totally open, making it a sitting duck if an enemy ever decides to invade. Senna feels there's zero reason to worry because of how many adventurers are crawling all over this place. Between the monsters and the bandits, anyone coming here is basically on a suicide mission. Before they part ways, Senna starts to say something to him, but she still can't bring herself to come clean about her identity. Even though she's secretly dying to share a room with him, little does she know he's actually reminiscing about that noble lady from 6 years ago, wondering if he'll ever get the chance to see her again. But what he doesn't realize is that he's already become a major thorn in someone's side. After finding out Senna teamed up with our guy, a shady figure orders their goons to use any means necessary to kick him out of town. Meanwhile, that blonde jerk has already found a new healer to replace our lead. Just how is this story going to unfold? Let's wait and see. See you in the next video. It's another beautiful day. Let's do this. You guys aren't even leaving a single opening. This is ridiculous. I'll kill you. Suddenly, everyone notices that the 9-headed Hydra has turned into a 7-headed one. It turns out the heads our guy chopped off haven't grown back yet. The blonde jerk immediately demands that Layla charge forward with him. This completely breaks the beautiful healer. She's never heard of a healer being expected to lead a charge. But the blonde guy acts like it's totally normal, saying that's exactly how the last guy did it. Layla is left absolutely speechless. This team actually expects a healer to fight on the front lines during a rank-up quest. They have no clue it was actually our guy who took those heads down. Seeing that Layla won't jump into the fray, the blonde guy figures it doesn't really matter. As long as she can decipher magic, he's fine with it. Meanwhile, our guy and Senna are having another busy day helping the receptionist with her work. The receptionist suggests he should add more members to the team. Having a warrior or a mage would not only make things easier, but would help the three of them bring in way more bank. But our guy decides to stick with the status quo for now. Still, with what they're pulling in every day, it's enough for them to rent their own place to use as a base. After all, they've got too much gear to keep in a tavern, and those daily room fees are starting to be a real drain on their pockets. Plus, when a guy and a girl team up like this, there's a good chance things will turn romantic, and that base would turn into a love nest in no time. Speaking of which, our guy remembers how that blonde jerk rented a whole villa, yet he was the only one forced to sleep in the warehouse. Regarding that blonde's team, the receptionist thinks it was a blessing in disguise that our guy got kicked out. Turns out their second attempt at the wounded Hydra was another total failure. Now, the blonde jerk can't wrap his head around it. The team upgraded, yet they still can't take down an injured Hydra. In fact, they're in much worse shape than before. Layla and that idiot blonde aren't even that strong. They just know how to charge in recklessly. And that's exactly why the little mage ended up getting seriously hurt. Now, these two scumbag teammates finally realize that the guy they threw away was actually incredibly useful. He'd do whatever they told him to without a peep. They even swindled him out of his rewards, and he never even noticed. They actually think they can just talk him back into it. Honestly, this blonde guy is totally delusional. He thinks all he has to do is wave, and our guy will come crawling back like a lost puppy, simply because their team is famous. Before long, the blonde jerk has the nerve to find our lead, telling him he should be grateful for the chance to rejoin. When he doesn't get an answer right away, the blonde starts acting like a big shot, saying he understands the hesitation. Since he's a top-tier adventurer, it must be exhausting just trying to keep up with him. But he tells him not to worry. If things get really dangerous, he'll just throw him out. Wait. No, he meant he'd step up and protect him. Our guy tries to say that isn't the issue. The blonde thinks the pay theft was discovered and promises they'll split everything evenly from now on. He claims he doesn't know why the math was wrong before. Then he turns around and trashes Layla, calling her a useless woman. That's why he wants our guy back. He just says thanks, and those two pieces of trash are already getting all excited. That's when Senna finally steps in. She tells them straight up that he is absolutely not going back to that loser's team. The blonde isn't worried at all and asks our guy what he has to say. He just tells Senna not to worry about it. He explains that his thanks was just for the invite. Whether they were being sincere or not doesn't matter to him one bit. But he's already found a new important partner, so there's no way he's going back. The blonde jerk totally lost it. He started pinning all his own BS on Senna, accusing her of using our guy.
He's finally realized that the MC isn't useless at all. He's actually a top-tier adventurer.
But looking at all the weird stuff happening in town lately, I bet 80% of the rewards they earned weren't even split fairly.
That was the last straw for our guy. He didn't hold a grudge for what the party did to him before, but if they even think about hurting Senna,
then don't blame him for forgetting they were ever friends. Fuming with rage, the blonde guy tries to recruit new teammates, ideally a warrior who can fight right alongside him. He's dead set on taking down the Hydra again. Out of nowhere, this long-haired masked guy in heavy armor with an 8-pack asks to join the squad.
The blonde guy sizes him up and draws his sword in front of everyone, demanding to know who he really is. I mean, the guy looks a bit too clean to be a real fighter.
Even though the stunt made him look like a total clown, he still lets the guy join the party. The toxic girl is worried since he's hiding his identity. She's sure something fishy is going on. But the blonde guy cares more about power. If they fail the Hydra raid again, their reputation is going straight into the gutter. Not long after Cena gets back, she spots the innkeeper's daughter standing right outside our guy's door. She thought the girl was trying to make a move, but it turns out there are guests at the inn looking for him. They ask Cena to come along too. It seems the little mage has something to ask him. She's begging him for help because that blonde jerk is planning to hunt the Hydra again today. He even went out of his way to get new teammates. The little mage finally realizes how strong our guy really is. If he hadn't cut off those 2 heads the first time, they would have been wiped out right then and there. But our guy just plays it down, saying they're imagining things. But Lyra isn't buying it. After all, they barely survived the second time against a 7-headed snake. She can't even imagine what'll happen against the real Hydra. She's hoping that since the monster hasn't fully healed yet, they could actually win with him on their side. She wants him to come back, but Cena, who's just sitting there, can't wrap her head around it. Why the hell would she want to save that piece of trash blonde guy? The little mage admits the blonde guy is a total scumbag full of flaws. She could talk for 2.5 hours and still not cover them all. But he's still a teammate, she says. Senna gets pissed. Wasn't he your teammate too? You saw how they treated him. Don't act like you didn't know. The little mage explains she didn't want it to happen. She was terrified that if she spoke up for him, she'd be the one getting kicked out next. She was just a newbie starting out and hadn't been in any other parties. Back then, she didn't even know if what the blonde guy and the thief were doing was right or wrong.
But now she sees the truth. Take away the adventurer title, and that guy is nothing but a complete lowlife.
Still, they're teammates. She just can't stand by and watch him die. Lyra mentions the little mage has been dying to apologize. Even while she was passed out, she kept mumbling, "I'm sorry." She really hopes he can find it in his heart to forgive her. Our guy tells her not to worry about the past. It's water under the bridge, but he still has no intention of going back.
Cena pulls Lyra aside and whispers, "Why doesn't she just leave that toxic group?" But the little mage is trapped by her sense of loyalty and refuses to quit.
Deep down, she's just too good of a kid for her own sake. Thinking about how the blonde guy trashed Lyra before our guy warns her that staying with them will only lead to more misery. But she can't bring herself to abandon the little mage. Suddenly, a familiar face appears. Did Gick really think Lyra wouldn't recognize him just because he put on a mask?
How pathetic his true colors are plain as day to everyone.
You never learn, do you? Where do you think you're going? Who said anything about quitting? Why the hell are you still hanging around him? It's time to settle all those old debts once and for all. Eventually, everyone heads back to the guild. It feels weird being alone in the guild after all this time. If he wants to keep playing pretend, let him. But honestly, his heart feels warm, and he's actually pretty happy. Ever since teaming up with our guy Senna, hits the dungeon with him every single day to farm some gold.
Suddenly, our guy brings up the Hydra living in the wetlands. It's a savage, venomous beast covered in pure muscle and protected by iron-hard scales.
It can reflect any weak physical or magical attacks right back at you. Senna can't help but worry about the little mage. While you don't see Hydras every day, they're actually one of the more common high-level monsters. Because of that, people have already figured out how to deal with them. Since their venom is so deadly, there's a specific antidote available now. You can buy it right here if you've got the cash, but it'll definitely cost you a pretty penny.
Of course, that cheapskate blonde guy Gran refuses to spend the money. He's betting their lives on Lyra's detox magic instead.
Surprisingly, our guy still thinks the blonde guy has potential. Setting aside the fact that he's a total scumbag, his swordsmanship is actually decent. If he wasn't such a loser, he'd be a top-tier swordsman. The thief is the same way their speed and agility are world-class. The Hydra has a massive field of vision, but as long as that blonde idiot doesn't push things too far, with his skills, he should be able to sneak up on the Hydra from behind. Senna is getting all jealous because our guy is talking so highly of his old teammate. He's been hitting a different dungeon every day, so he wanted to check out the wetlands today. Meanwhile, Blondie's squad is already throwing hands with the Hydra. That one slash really messed up one of the Hydra's heads, but it didn't take it off like Blondie hoped. After all, that's his prey. He definitely doesn't want anyone else stealing his spotlight. Plus, having the title of Hydra Slayer sounds pretty badass, right?
Blondie let the praise go straight to his head and thought he was hot stuff charging in for a head-on clash. Watching him get smacked back like a loser, Lyra was honestly speechless.
That rogue girl is just as delusional. She actually thinks Blondie looks charming like that.
Thanks to the masked guy wearing it down earlier, the Hydra's running low on steam. If the rogue can distract it, Blondie might actually land a finishing blow.
The little mage over there can also help out with some support magic to keep it busy. Lyra thought they had this in the bag, but they were celebrating way too early. The Hydra swiped a massive rock and took out the little mage first.
She let out a blood-curdling scream and fear started pouring out of her. You see, monsters can actually swallow human fear and turn it into raw power.
And as if things weren't bad enough, a ton of black smoke started bubbling up from underground. Usually, you only see this mana source at the very bottom of a dungeon. The Hydra soaked up all that gas and literally mutated on the spot. Not only did its wounds heal instantly, but all its stats got a massive boost. The masked guy suggested they get out of there, but Blondie wasn't ready to give up. He worked so hard to wear the thing down. He wanted to chop off at least one head so he could go back and flex for the ladies.
But to his surprise, his crappy sword shattered the second it touched the monster.
As the Hydra lunged for a counterattack, our guy showed some serious class and stepped in to save that jerk's life at the last second. The little mage was out cold, and since mages have high magic resistance, standard healing spells usually don't do much. But our guy just kept spamming basic heals, and Lyra had no clue what he was trying to do. His trashy former teammates acted like it was totally normal. They explained he was stacking the heals, and amazingly it actually worked on her. Lyra was stunned, but they just mocked her for being such a newbie.
Apparently, that's how our guy used to patch them up back in the day.
Lyra was totally losing it. She'd never even heard of stacking heals before. Suddenly, the masked guy realized the Hydra was basically calling out our hero for a one-on-one. Sina wasn't about to stay on the sidelines, though. Our guy knew he couldn't talk her out of it, but he told her she had to bolt if things got too dangerous. With a massive surge of energy on the battlefield, the fight hit a fever pitch. By now, Blondie had lost all his tough guy energy. He watched the masked man lop off a head with a single swing and couldn't understand why his sword worked. He had no idea the masked man was holding a legendary magic sword. Word is, a massive power lives inside that thing. Sina tried to land a hit, but it didn't even leave a scratch. Instead, the Hydra targeted her specifically and sent her flying with a tail swipe. Everyone realized the monster did that on purpose. It was holding Sina hostage to force our guy into a duel. See, mutated monsters don't just get stronger, they get smarter too. Our guy told the masked man to stay back, but he didn't last long before he went down. But because of that, the power sleeping inside him finally woke up. That mysterious, overwhelming power surged through his entire body in an instant. When our guy finally came to, he saw Sina was safe and sound. The little mage was out of danger too, but he was left wondering what the heck just happened to him. Blondie was hyped, saying our guy was amazing, and that with his help, they could totally clear the whole dungeon. Then he had the nerve to say they should sell the Hydra's magic stone and split the cash between the top 3 members. He claimed the 2 new people did nothing, so they don't get a cent. After all, he saw Sina as just a sidekick. He figured he could just smooth things over with a few words. But what about the little mage? Seriously, these trash bags have no shame. The rogue was acting all high and mighty too, saying the mage was useless now. They didn't even know if she'd wake up, so Blondie planned to sell her off. Since the girl is pretty cute, he figured some sickos would pay a high price for her. Blondie then claimed the guild bans fighting between adventurers, and he wanted everyone to testify so Sina would get in trouble with the guild. But besides the rogue, nobody was playing along. That rogue girl is seriously disgusting, trying to frame them as being in on it. Little did they know the masked man had an ace up his sleeve. He said he didn't see any fighting, but he definitely saw some human trafficking. These 2 trash bags really were going to sell her to some creepy noble once she passed out. Turns out the masked man is an official from the Capital's Guild with the power to arrest other adventurers. The 2 were quickly restrained to be taken back. Lately, the town's safety had been going downhill because of trashy adventurers like them. That's why he was sent to investigate, and he just happened to catch these 2 red-handed. Since they were planning on selling a human being, they won't just lose their licenses, they'll be doing hard labor for the rest of their lives. But our guy is such a softie that he actually wanted Jeek and the others to be forgiven. All because he felt that deep down, they probably started out wanting to work hard and become great adventurers. It was only later that they got blinded by greed and fame, so he wanted to give them one more shot. Seriously, this guy is something else. In the end, Zeke just told them to get the hell out of town. I mean, even if he kicked them out of the guild, there's no guarantee they'd actually change their ways. Keeping them as adventurers where the guild can keep an eye on them might actually be the smarter move. Maybe it's better this way. Our main guy continues with his wild logic, saying it felt pretty damn good to chase that toxic couple out of the village. Later, Lyra finds out that Zeke's real goal was to monitor how the adventurers are spread out here. The royal capital thinks something fishy is going on in this town, and it's likely the branch manager is up to no good. That's why he's asking Lyra to back him up. Lyra doesn't say no, but she's got one condition: the little mage has to join their squad too. She just can't bring herself to leave that kid all alone. Zeke agrees without a second thought. I mean, having more allies doesn't hurt, even if it just means he has more people to keep tabs on. Ever since he saw the MC one-shot that Hydra, he knew he couldn't just let him roam around unchecked. Today, the MC heads to the guild first thing in the morning, mostly because he hasn't traded that Hydra's mana stone for cash yet. Plus, he wants to help Cena pick up some work. For adventurers, besides grinding for gold in the dungeons, taking on quests is a huge part of their income. If Cena wants to keep being an adventurer, she needs to stack up some experience with these quests. She didn't expect him to be so thoughtful, and she starts blushing so hard she's basically a steaming teapot. But the second they step into the guild, they notice every single adventurer there is staring them down. People are already gossiping about how the MC took down the Hydra. He realizes what's happening and whispers to Senna to stay on high alert. The news of their victory has spread like wildfire, and there are plenty of shady characters among adventurers who'd love to swipe that mana stone. Just as he says that 4 adventurers show up behind them. Their leader, Manel, says he wants to have a little chat. Seeing the MC looking all guarded Manel figures, it's just because there are too many people around for him to relax. So he tells the others to clear out. Then Manel suddenly starts apologizing for everything that happened with that blonde jerk. Everyone in town knew what a piece of work that guy was, but nobody ever lifted a finger to help. They knew the MC was being bullied, but everyone just made excuses to mind their own business. They didn't care about anyone else's problems, and some even added insult to injury by mocking the MC for being a useless loser. Manel feels so guilty for just standing by and watching that he knows he doesn't have any right to ask for forgiveness. But isn't that just a bunch of empty talk? If you really want him to forgive you, you should at least kneel in front of him for 2.5 days. I mean, 2.5 days is nothing compared to the years of hell the MC had to endure, right? By the time Manel is done, the MC is completely baffled. Sure, hearing this feels great, but he's worried everyone's going to start treating him like some kind of monster now. Besides, even if he did kill a Hydra, he's still just a trash healer who only knows one healing spell. The MC is seriously on another level now. He doesn't even care if people keep calling him a loser. Then there's the guild lady who's practically flushed with excitement because she's looking at the remains of a high-rank Hydra. On top of that, it's a mutated version, which means the price is at least 10 times higher than usual, maybe even more. Mutations are incredibly rare, especially for a powerhouse like a Hydra. As everyone knows, it takes a massive amount of mana for a monster to mutate. Usually, those conditions are only met deep inside a dungeon, yet this Hydra mutated out in the middle of a swamp. While there have been cases of mana pooling outside dungeons, before nobody's ever heard of enough mana gathering to cause a mutation like this. Adding in the fact that orcs are wandering around the upper floors, the MC suspects something might be going wrong deep inside the dungeon. It turns out his hunch was spot on. Other adventurers have seen weird stuff lately too. But the guild has zero plans to send anyone to investigate. Suddenly, Hazam, who's been watching the MC, shows up and says they can report issues to him. But after hearing about the monsters escaping and the Hydra mutation, he just shuts them down. He says he's not wasting resources on such minor problems. The MC is worried sick. What if adventurers start dying because of this? Hazam is a total scumbag who couldn't care less about what happens to the adventurers. The MC tries to compromise, saying they should at least post a warning for everyone. But Hazam just mocks him, saying if he's so scared he should just pack his bags and leave town. Sena is fuming. Who the hell does that guy think he is talking to the MC like that? Turns out Hazam is the acting proxy for the branch manager. Word is, the manager is a stubborn old guy who stays holed up in his office all day because of his age. That makes Hazam the one actually running the show. He's so strict with everyone that even the guild staff are terrified of him. To help Cena get some experience, the MC picks out a monster hunting quest. It's exactly the kind of combat mission she loves. But the girl at the front desk advises against it. Apparently, a phoenix has been nesting near the teleport point, which is why the guild put out such a high reward. The pay is great, but going after a phoenix with just a brawler and a healer. No matter how you look at it, that's a suicide mission.
After all, a phoenix is a flying enemy, so it's going to be a nightmare to deal with if we don't have some ranged attacks.
That's why a warrior, a mage, and a healer who can cast wide-range spells are absolutely essential for this group. The two of them immediately thought of the perfect candidates. They tracked down the young mage. Since her trio was already supposed to be keeping an eye on our protagonist, teaming up actually makes things a lot easier for everyone. The young mage didn't have any objections. She was just worried if the guy would even want to team up with her. I mean, she did treat him pretty badly before. But honestly, he'd already forgiven her in his heart. As long as she doesn't make the same mistakes again, she's still a good kid at heart. So the group split into 3 directions to get things moving. They went to accept the quest, while Layla the young mage headed off to buy some gear. Our main man took Sina to a potion shop to stock up. Combining potions with healing magic helps burns heal way faster. But out of nowhere, someone grabbed Sina from behind. When they looked closer, it was a very generous and curvy red-headed girl. Sina was shocked. Laluma. What are you doing here? Laluma bragged about being a world-class archmage and a famous adventurer. She even claimed to have a gaze so intense it could make a crying baby shut up instantly. Is it really that weird for me to show up in a dungeon city? She asked. But Sina knew better. Her father definitely sent her. After all, when your precious only daughter basically runs away from home, any father would be worried sick and ask someone like Laluma to look after her. Who would have thought the culprit behind her running away was actually our protagonist? He even calls her master. Turns out he trained under Laluma for a bit, and she's also an old friend of Sina's father. Now Laluma needed to talk about some family business with Sina, so she asked the guy to step away for a moment. But he wasn't having it. He refused to leave, saying Sina is his teammate now, and definitely not an outsider. Plus, he was worried her father might have told Laluma to bring her back by any means necessary. Laluma got curious. And if that's the case, she asked, just how do you plan on stopping me? She was actually surprised by how much stronger he'd gotten, so she agreed to let him stay. Sina then tried to explain that this was all just a big misunderstanding. She didn't just run away without saying anything. Sure, she was in a rush and didn't get to explain things to her parents face to face, but she did leave a note. It said she was going to see her big brother and not to worry. But when Laluma heard that, she just looked totally exasperated. Apparently, that note was written so poorly that nobody could actually read it. That's what caused all this chaos and made her father think she'd been kidnapped or something. Looking at the truth, now both of them were just stunned by how incredibly messy her handwriting was. Think about it, any parent seeing their young daughter in the prime of her life, calling a man she's not even related to Big Brother and telling them not to worry. It's literally impossible not to worry. But seriously, why did she leave so suddenly in the first place? Sina got all shy, and it was all because of him, though she didn't dare say the real reason. See, ever since he saved her, she'd been secretly having people keep tabs on him. Once she heard that the blonde jerk had kicked him out of the party, Sina knew she couldn't let this opportunity slip away. So she rushed out of the house to find him and begged to join his team. But our guy suggested that she really should clear things up with her family first. You need your parents' permission to be an adventurer, he said. Sina looked at him with puppy dog eyes. Does it really not matter to you if I'm here or not? This wave of rejection hit her hard, leaving her feeling completely discouraged. Little did she know, her father wasn't actually against it. He was just worried because she left so abruptly. After finding an excuse to send our hero away, Laluma started teasing Sina. You literally left your family to be by his side, yet he acts like he doesn't even need your help. Laluma poked at her. Sina was definitely feeling insecure, but she insisted it was just because he's so incredible. Not only does he have tons of experience as an adventurer, but he's always thinking about others. He always puts everyone else before himself. Even today, he went out of his way to negotiate a quest just for her sake. He clearly wants her to get more experience fighting alongside warriors and mages so she can grow. That way, if he's ever not around, she won't struggle to survive on her own. Sina felt so bad. She came here wanting to save him, but instead she's the one constantly getting help. She felt like she was just becoming a burden to him. Laluma comforted her, saying that his personality had actually changed a lot since she showed up. In the past, he never would have made such a gentle expression. He certainly wouldn't have stood up to powerful people for someone else's sake. So really, that's all thanks to Sina. After seeing Sina and the guy off Laluma finally prepared to get down to business, her real goal was to conduct a thorough investigation into the local guild branch manager and find out exactly what kind of shady schemes he was cooking up behind the scenes. Just a moment ago, the group teleported into the dungeon. Sina was pretty surprised. She thought they'd run into the Phoenix the second they stepped inside. But this area was way too narrow for a phoenix to fit. Soon, though, they reached a wide-open chamber, and sure enough, the phoenix was right there waiting for them. Supposedly, there's a path here that leads all the way to the deepest part of the dungeon. But because of that Phoenix, nobody has ever made it through alive. And in that unexplored space, there's bound to be piles of untouched gold, silver, and rare items just waiting to be found. That's exactly why the guild put out such a massive bounty to have it taken down. Our hero noticed high-temperature burn marks nearby and concluded that the phoenix's nest had to be close by. Since it's a monster with a very strong sense of territory, they didn't even need to go looking for it. Once it senses intruders, that phoenix is going to come straight for them. Meanwhile, the legendary Laluma made her appearance at the guild. The receptionist has a sharp eye for talent and immediately rushes over to give them the royal treatment. After all, without these adventurers, this guild wouldn't even have a reason to exist. But his friendly face is reserved only for the big shots with real power and status. Even though Laruma looks like a complete mess, the few scraps of fabric he's wearing are actually top tier. His accessories might look plain at first glance, but every single one of them is an expensive magic item. Because of this, the receptionist concludes that this guy might just be a world-class adventurer. But he didn't expect Laruma to open his mouth and immediately demand to see the branch president. It's completely insane. The receptionist is stunned. The guy actually said he wants to take down the president. There's no way he's letting him through now. Laruma realizes it's no use talking. If they won't listen, he'll just have to use a little brute force. Seeing that he's about to get serious, the receptionist bolts. Hey, for a job that pays peanuts, it's definitely not worth sticking around to get pummeled. That is until the president's proxy Hazam steps in to stop him, saying if he needs anything, he can talk to him directly. He recognized that this redhead is a powerhouse. He knows full well that if Laruma cuts loose, this whole place would be turned to ash. Meanwhile, the phoenix is just circling in the sky, refusing to come down. Neither the protagonist nor Senna can land a hit. At this moment, they're really regretting not buying a bow and some arrows beforehand. However, Senna assumes that since the distance is too great for them to attack, the enemy must be in the same boat. But she's proven wrong instantly when the phoenix spits out a fireball. Talk about a reality check. Aside from its claws and beak or slamming its flaming body into opponents, those fireballs are the most annoying part of dealing with a phoenix. Hazam didn't expect Laruma to be just like the protagonist, coming here to warn them about a possible anomaly in the dungeon. But his answer remains the same. If you're scared, then just leave this town. But Laruma isn't like the protagonist. Since it's been a long time since his last visit, he noticed that the town is now crawling with thugs and lowlifes. He has every reason to suspect the guild is behind this, though it doesn't really matter if Hazam admits it or not. Then there are those mysterious white towers all over town. Hazam plays dumb again, claiming to know absolutely nothing. Now that's where things get interesting. In a dungeon city, the Adventurers Guild is an organization with absolute authority. Once you become the branch president, you're basically the king of the castle in this town. Yet he claims he doesn't know anything about the weird things happening. That kind of excuse is just plain ridiculous. Hazam keeps insisting he's just a lowly assistant. Laruma is annoyed by his fake act. Hazam just coolly repeats that if they're scared, they should just get out. But that's exactly what the guild wants. They're intentionally flooding the place with scum while trying to drive out all the decent adventurers. He suspects something big is about to happen, and the guild probably needs a lot of lives to sacrifice. Preferably people who won't be missed if they suddenly vanish. And the only possibility he can think of is that the dungeon is about to go berserk. Back in the dungeon, the group is at a total loss as they watch the phoenix wreak havoc from above. If this keeps up, the whole area will turn into a sea of fire. Not only is the heat unbearable, but the oxygen is being sucked dry. Before long, they'll be forced to retreat. The protagonist realizes the phoenix is trying to drive them out of its territory on purpose. Since they have the numbers, the phoenix probably thinks it can't walk away unscathed if it starts a direct fight. So the group decides they have to force an opening. Only the little mage's magic can reach that high for a long-range attack. He needs to hit the phoenix's wings with water magic. If he can douse the flames on its wings, the bird will lose altitude. Then Zeke will immediately cut it down with his magic sword. Zeke knows it takes time to charge a spell strong enough to hurt a phoenix, meaning the little mage will be completely defenseless. But he tells his comrade not to be afraid. He promises the phoenix won't lay a hand on him. I mean, the bird doesn't even have hands. So the three fighters act as decoys to draw the aggro buying time for the little mage to cast his spell. Once Zeke successfully lands a hit and wounds the phoenix, finishing it off is only a matter of time. Meanwhile, back at the guild, Hazam is still denying Laruma's suspicions. He's acting incredibly calm. It's as if everything is going exactly according to plan. No one can shake his resolve. The guild's conspiracy is still moving forward. The people being sacrificed have no idea what's coming, and the final outcome is still anyone's guess. If you view it as a precursor to a dungeon outbreak, then everything starts to make sense. The most concerning part is the monster mutations. Even if he's being stubborn, there's no way he hasn't noticed how many monsters are swarming the town and the dungeon outskirts. So when the wounded phoenix suddenly begins to mutate, everyone is caught completely off guard. Rare mutations that you almost never see, and they've run into 2 in a row. The little mage is having a total meltdown. Why is it always me? He's terrified that he might actually die here. But if he keeps letting fear take over, it'll end up just like the Hydra fight. The phoenix will only get stronger. If he can't conquer his fear, he'll never grow as an adventurer.
Seeing the phoenix target him as the biggest threat, the little mage is frozen stiff with terror. But at the critical moment, Zeke steps up. He promised he wouldn't let the phoenix touch the little mage, and he's a man of his word.
Retreat. In a spot like this, where exactly could we even run to? Even if we're backed into a corner, I'm never giving up. Those words finally gave the little mage the push he needed. But now the rest of the team has to buy him enough time to cast his spell. By now, Laruma had already walked out of the guild. It turns out a mid-level guy like Hazama is still refusing to spill the beans. Not that Laruma expected these snakes to be honest from the start. Laruma heads over to the White Tower to investigate and confirms this is definitely no ordinary object. Meanwhile, Sina lands a heavy punch right on the phoenix's body, but to his shock, the bird doesn't even flinch. Instead, his own hand was nearly scorched to a crisp. Just then, the phoenix begins another deadly dive. Our hero rushes in front to shield her from the blast. Even if he's staring straight into hell, he won't take a single step back. He can't believe his weapon is actually melting from the heat. But right then, the little mage finally finishes his chant, taking things to the next level. He conjures a massive sword made of pure ice. The power behind it is absolutely lethal, way stronger than before. But sadly, the attack misses its mark. The phoenix isn't flying low enough, so Zeke's magic sword still can't reach it. Sena steps up once more using his insane agility to leap directly onto the phoenix's head. Ronnie Sinimos. Back at the guild, everyone is singing the little mage's praises, calling him the MVP of the battle. It's just a shame our protagonist didn't tap into that mysterious power this time around. Because of that, they can't stop keeping tabs on him just yet. Later, he finds Laruma waiting for him at the inn. She already knows he went out to take down the phoenix. All it took was a little tip, and the receptionist spilled everything she knew. Looking at them, it's obvious the hunt was a success. Not only can they trade the mana stones for cash, but there's also a fat bounty waiting for them. Treating him to a nice meal is the least she could do. Then Laruma suddenly drops a bombshell about Sina's real background. It turns out she's actually Anna Restria, the daughter of a high-ranking count. Everyone's jaws hit the floor when they hear that. Our hero starts to remember a little girl he saved years ago. She was from a count's family too. He finally realizes that Sina is that same blonde girl from his past. But in this world, an ancient legend has been passed down for generations. Every 200 years, an evil dragon awakens, and a hero rises to face it. But even after fighting with everything he has, the hero is ultimately no match for the dragon's power.
Just then, a mysterious girl appears, possessing a hidden power capable of sealing the evil dragon away.
But the catch is to suppress the dragon, the girl has to pay with her life. Believing the hero will eventually find his strength again, she bravely chooses to sacrifice herself.
Her sacrifice brings a temporary peace to the world. Meanwhile, Sana is busy complaining to that money-grubbing receptionist.
She can't believe the core from that mutated phoenix, something they all risked their lives for, is only worth this tiny amount of pocket change.
Little does she know less is more. If they paid her in silver and copper coins, the two of them wouldn't even be able to carry it all.
That's why the clerk spent so much time exchanging it all for gold coins instead. On top of that, the boosted magical effects can now be shared with our hero. Having finally struck it rich, Sina has an idea. She wants to move out of the inn and find a place to settle down with him. After all, even the greedy receptionist mentioned that renting a private house is way more cost-effective. With the kind of money they have now, they could easily buy a house big enough to start a family. But when she brings it up, he just thinks she has a problem with the inn. It's not that she hates it, it's actually the opposite. The inn is so popular that it's always packed and noisy.
She just wants a quiet little spot where she can have some real heart-to-heart talks with him. In a cozy, warm room, she could open up about her struggles as a rookie and ask for his advice.
He'd give her these gentle, thoughtful answers. And then, once the mood is just right, a spark of uncontrollable passion would ignite between them.
Ha ha. In terms of raw combat power, he's more than welcome. His insane strength is definitely the real deal.
If they're planning to dive deeper into the dungeons from now on, these guys would make some killer teammates. We're talking about a group of invincible god-tier brothers.
Wait, what about you?
Despite her frustration, Cinna is the type to go along with whatever he decides. After a quick celebration, the girls head back to their rooms to get some rest. Layla doesn't forget to remind them that for the sake of their future, they need to stay on his good side. Cinna, however, wants to pick Layla's brain. She admits she wanted to move in with him, but he totally shut her down. She's worried that maybe he actually dislikes her. But from Layla's perspective, it's clear that he really cherishes her. As for why he said no, well, saying he's just shy might be an understatement. Maybe he just wants to take things one step at a time. After all, even among men, everyone's personality is a little different. Cinna looks at her with pure admiration. That's our Layla for you. She definitely sounds like a pro when it comes to romance. Honestly, she's always had that aura of a sophisticated, mature woman. I bet she knows a ton of moves he's never even heard of. Honestly, Lyra keeps wishing she was a girl. If she were, maybe things wouldn't be such a struggle for her right now. Little did anyone know, our guy has the exact same problem. Zeke's sitting there thinking that even if he says yes, it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, it's just living under the same roof, right? Besides, after being rejected by the guy she looks up to so much, poor Cinna looks absolutely heartbroken. Could it be that he actually hates Cinna? No way, not even a little bit. After all, back when he'd lost all hope for the future, Cinna was the one who gave him the courage to keep being an adventurer. And when that blonde jerk kicked him out of the party, Cinna was the one who stepped up and asked him to team up with her. How could I ever hate her? Especially since she just saved my life. Seriously, didn't you notice how intense you were acting back there? But Zeke has no idea that Lyra is roasting him with the exact same words. Those two have actually known each other for a long time. Back then, they were in the same party. Now everyone knows Zeke is a total hottie. His fangirls could probably wrap around the royal capital 2.5 times. A lot of girls joined the team just to get close to him. But who would have thought that even a sweet, innocent mage would get dragged into all that girl-on-girl drama because of him? That unique personality of hers really caught his attention. Anyway, back to the main point. One time, while Lyra was all by herself, some scumbag adventurer tried to force himself on her. Since the guy didn't actually succeed, Lyra was going to let it slide. But Jack, he couldn't stand a creep like that. So after kicking the guy out of the party, Jack just up and vanished. He honestly had no idea how to even look Lyra in the eye after that. He never expected they'd run into each other again like this. When he asked for help, Lyra didn't just say yes. She was more than happy to help. She even forgave him for sticking his nose in her business back then. The thing is, Lyra wasn't even mad, but Jack went and pulled a disappearing act anyway. Lyra kept complaining about how that blockhead doesn't understand a woman's heart at all. But the little landlady saw right through her teasing that she's clearly head over heels for Jack. Everyone's wondering if he likes Cinna so much. Why the heck did he turn down her offer to move in? He admitted that when he first heard it, he was actually really happy. But there was one thing he had to double-check first. And just as he said that, the money-grubbing receptionist popped up right in front of him. The investigation report he ordered was finally in. Turns out Cinna is indeed the one and only daughter of Count Analestria. Normally, Cinna and her future husband would inherit the title. But out of nowhere, she decides she wants to be an adventurer. Jack thinks that part's fine. Nobles becoming adventurers isn't unheard of, but there's no way the Count and Countess would just agree to it. She's their precious only child, after all. But then something happened that made her parents completely change their minds. And that's when the girls finally learned the truth. It turns out Cinna wasn't born with blue hair. When she was little, she was a blonde just like her parents. But shortly after our MC saved her, her hair turned completely blue overnight. Everyone was stunned they'd never heard of anything like that before, and that's exactly why the MC didn't recognize her at first. He had no idea Cinna was the same little girl he rescued. The Count tried everything to figure out why her hair changed color, but they never found an answer. But from that day on, her parents stopped trying to keep her from becoming an adventurer. Zeke finally gets it, so that's what he was worried about. But hey, now there's nothing left to stress over. The girls are seriously impressed by Cinna. She's a high-class noble, but she's willing to throw away all that wealth and status just for the guy she loves. She's even the one doing the chasing, and she's being surprisingly bold about it. Pretty soon, everyone's relationships started moving to the next level. So with the other girls egging her on, Lyra played it cool, but asked Zeke if they could talk in private. She told him she wanted to be his partner. Zeke was just confused Aren't we already on the same team?
He had no clue she meant partners for life.
Zeke got all shy and said he needed to think about it. Lyra was absolutely fuming at first, but then she realized his reaction wasn't actually that bad. After all, he probably never even considered something like that. Seeing this, the MC decided he wanted to have a private chat with Cena tomorrow too. Cena, thinking the big confession was finally coming, happily agreed. But our guy had no idea that just as he finally worked up the nerve to confess some kid covered in wounds would come out of nowhere and totally ruin the mood. Luckily, after some treatment, the boy was going to be fine. It turns out he's a dungeon orphan too, so the landlady has been looking out for him for a long time. The thing is, dungeon orphans always dream of becoming adventurers. Just a while ago, he came by all excited to share the good news that he'd finally joined a party. As soon as the MC heard that he knew exactly what happened, he had to put his confession to Sanaa on hold and head straight to the Adventurers Guild. Just as he suspected, the kid had gone through the exact same thing our MC did. When they got cornered by orcs in the dungeon, the rest of the party showed their true colors. They literally shoved the kid toward the monsters to use him as bait so they could save their own skins. But it didn't take long for the MC to get some help and track down those scumbag adventurers. Surprisingly, he didn't plan on beating them up, he just wanted them kicked out of town. The guild receptionist was stressed though, saying it's against the rules to bypass the guild to handle things like this. But the other adventurers were fed up too. They argued that it's only because the guild turns a blind eye that this kind of crap keeps happening. The receptionist couldn't even argue back. After all, he's just following orders from the higher-ups. Hearing that made the MC's blood boil. He just couldn't wrap his head around what the hell the guild's big shots were actually thinking. Right then, Hazam shows up. Instead of explaining himself, he demands to know what our hero is up to and starts throwing shade to flip the script. He accuses the MC of being a vigilante and attacking adventurers. Honestly, our guy is totally over this dude. He already reported the issues to the guild, and they did zero, so he had to handle it himself. Now that the problem is solved, the guild suddenly wants a report. If you ask me, those guild guys are the ones who actually deserve to be kicked out of town. The other adventurers nearby are absolutely livid. They're ready to beat the living daylights out of a piece of trash like Hazam. The captain steps in to cool everyone down, saying that beating him to a pulp won't solve a thing. So the MC decides he'll be the one to deal with Hazam man-to-man. Our hero is disgusted that they're using dungeon orphans as sacrificial pawns. In any other town, a guild would never just sit back and watch this happen. They'd at least do something. But this town, they choose to look the other way, just because they think they can't win anyway. They won't lift a finger or spend a dime, even going as far as to say those poor kids brought it on themselves. Hazam tells him if he doesn't like the town, he can just get lost, no one's forcing him to be an adventurer. He says instead of trying to kick people out, the MC should be the one leaving. He can tell the MC still has something he wants to say. Hazam cuts him off, guessing he's about to talk about redemption. He says someone once told him that, for an adventurer, life and death are only a hair's breadth apart. He claims the weak deserve to die because they don't have the right to live. Then, Hazam pulls back his sleeve to reveal a nasty, jagged scar. That's when it finally clicks for our hero. He knows exactly who this guy is. Before Hazam changed his name, he and the MC were actually teammates on the same adventuring squad. Back then, Hazam was the one constantly being mocked and pushed around. Even when the MC tried to be kind, Hazam's pride wouldn't let him take it. He couldn't stand the idea of being someone's charity case. In the middle of the night, the MC wakes Hazam up from a nap during his watch. Turns out they're already completely surrounded by goblins. And we're talking a massive horde of them. To make matters worse, the other adventurers in their group are total cowards. As soon as they realize they're outmatched, those guys pull a dirty move and throw the MC and Hazam out as bait. In the blink of an eye, they've already vanished into the night. Honestly, the MC is used to this by now. He realizes those guys probably planned to dump them from the very start. That's why they hired useless guys like them. But neither of them gives up. After a desperate struggle, they manage to crawl into a hollow tree. Luckily, the goblins are pretty much blind and walk right past them. Hazam scoffs at himself, calling them both total failures. He says if those other adventurers make it out alive, at least they were successful as bait. But the MC isn't so sure. He doesn't think those guys are getting away. Very few people know this, but when goblins hunt in a pack, they actually have a habit of going after the biggest group first. As long as they stay quiet and hidden, they'll be safe once the goblins catch up to the rest of the group. Right on cue, the goblins swarm out to chase down the fleeing adventurers. Suddenly, those guys are the ones acting as bait for their escape. That's when the MC notices. Hazam took a massive hit during the fight, and his arm has a huge, deep gash.
Forget running, the MC knows he has to patch Hazam up right now, or it's game over. Hazam doesn't want to be a burden and tells him to leave, saying the weak deserve to die anyway. He's already made his peace with it. But our hero isn't having it and gently talks him out of it. He refuses to give up on him. He explains he's so sure about this because, well, he was once saved too. In the end, they both make it out alive, and the MC becomes the one person who truly saved Hazam. On the flip side, every single one of those adventurers who ran got wiped out by the goblins. It was brutal. They didn't even spare the women. Eventually, Hazam crossed paths with a powerful benefactor, and before he knew it, he climbed his way up to the position he has today. That benefactor. It's the current branch head mist. To pay the MC back for saving his life, Hazam warns him that he needs to get out of town as soon as possible. He even says it's okay to take Sina with him. Our guy keeps the warning to himself for now, but then that money-hungry receptionist pulls him aside for a private chat. Turns out a lot of the guild staff are totally against what Mist and Hazam are doing. They're questioning why Mist was just dropped in from out of nowhere, especially since his management style is clashing with the old-timers. So the receptionist is asking for their help. Lately, monsters have been popping up all over town. If they keep ignoring it, innocent people are going to get hurt. She's hoping they can take care of these problems. Normally, the guild would put out a bounty for stuff like this, but every single one has to go through Hazam for approval first. But those guys are intentionally ignoring everything. That's why the receptionist is secretly leaking info on all the scumbag adventurers. If they can take care of these guys, she'll pretend she never saw a thing. As for the weird stuff in the dungeon, she has to be careful since Mist has spies everywhere. She can't make a scene about it. All she can do is drop subtle hints when she can and hope the adventurers are sharp enough to take the cue. As a little thank you, she's willing to buy any monster stones they get at a much higher price than usual. Look, I told you to stop obsessing over that. Even if those ships are gone, they're planning on moving over here anyway, and that could lead to people actually getting killed. I'm telling you, it's safe to come over now. We've finally got a solid footing here. Since I'm the one in charge and you guys took me in, I've got to step up. Just tell me, what are we supposed to do about all those people with nowhere to go? No way, right? As long as we do right by the master? I mean, we can't waste an opportunity like this. So here's the deal. Not long after Mist receives a letter from the Prime Minister, ordering him to keep a real close eye on Senna. Hazam just doesn't get it. Is this Sleeping Beauty legend really such a big deal that the Prime Minister of an entire nation needs to track it every second? Little does he know the legend of Sleeping Beauty sacrificing herself to bring peace to the world isn't just some fairy tale. Senna's blue hair is the ultimate proof that she's the chosen one. She's the only person on Earth with the power to actually suppress the evil dragon. Over at the town entrance by the plaza, goblins have started prowling around. And there are even a few large goblins mixed in the crowd. Since the guild is basically doing nothing, the locals have no choice but to beg our hero for help. But what they never expected was that these goblins have all mutated. They're actually speaking human language, screaming about killing every last human, leaving everyone absolutely terrified. This is the first time anyone has ever seen such a creepy, unnatural state. But no matter what their mission is, simple wipe out every last goblin and protect the town. In a world without games, the story you've been waiting for is just beyond the horizon. The large goblin talks a big game right up until the moment it dies. Sure enough, it drops a mutation mystery box. But things are far from over. A massive wave of goblins suddenly appears outside the dungeon. There's roughly 2.5 times as many as before, and the numbers are just keeping on climbing. There's no way they can handle this on their own. Our hero isn't about to stay here and pick a fight he can't win. Rule number 1, when you're outnumbered, get the heck out of there. His plan is to do what Senna suggested, round up all the adventurers in town and take these things down together. But to his surprise, the guild already has a massive line out the door. It turns out the guild has uncharacteristically put out a massive bounty. It's even higher than the reward for the Phoenix hunt. Even the greedy receptionist thinks it's suspicious. Plus, the guild is even letting people take a portion of the pay up front. It's gotten so crazy that some guys are just taking the cash and running. Our hero figures this has Hazam's fingerprints all over it. Even though things aren't going exactly as he planned, this should still keep the town safe. However, coming up with that much cash on the fly is no small feat. You'd have to prepare way in advance to pull that off. It's like Hazam knew this day was coming all along. Suddenly, our hero's master, the fire god, shows up out of nowhere. Seeing him, our hero shares his theory. With all these monsters suddenly pouring out of the dungeon, we might be looking at a very special crisis. It's the legendary dungeon outbreak. The greedy receptionist has heard the stories, and she quickly digs up some books on the subject. A dungeon outbreak is a phenomenon where monsters swarm out of a dungeon in massive numbers.
If there are any villages or towns nearby, they'll be wiped off the map. Word has it that these outbreaks happen because a massive amount of mana builds up inside the dungeon. To prevent this, adventurers aren't just there to kill beasts. They have to force the dungeon to keep producing new ones. This uses up the dungeon's mana. The whole reason the Adventurers Guild exists is to balance and reduce mana levels in dungeons everywhere. They have to stop the mana from overflowing and causing a disaster. Everyone's faces turn pale after hearing this. According to the fire god, this crisis is closing in fast. The last outbreak happened 100 years ago, so the guild actually does have a purpose. Still, everyone senses that something is off. This specific dungeon attracts more adventurers than anywhere else in the country, and more monsters have been killed here than anywhere else too. By all logic, there shouldn't be enough mana left to trigger an outbreak. To deal with the coming disaster, everyone decides to unite. They send in their elite forces to guard the bottom floor rooms. Before long, the monsters start flooding into the town. There are even powerful monsters from the middle floors. Even liches are wandering around in broad daylight, and predictably, they're all mutated variants. The monsters keep chanting, "Kill," over and over. Amidst the deafening roars, the human adventurers charge forward into battle as one. But just as they finish off the first wave, an even larger swarm appears. Seeing this, our hero and Sieg dive right in. They dive straight into the sea of monsters. But just as Sieg is getting into the zone, he loses his footing and slips. Luckily, Sieg's master Ronald shows up just in time to save him. But what really shocks everyone is that Ronald already knows Senna. It turns out he was the one who taught Senna her sword skills. And as it happens, her talent with a blade is actually even higher than our hero's. Turns out our hero also learned swordsmanship from Ronald back in the day. So after all this time, they're basically on the same team. Ronald makes a move, and even a simple one is enough. He shows everyone present just how massive the gap in power really is. The rock god and Ronald used to be teammates, and they used to take our hero on adventures all over the place. Meanwhile, Hazam uses a teleportation spell that's been lost for hundreds of years to suddenly appear. He tells the guild's branch leader that he wants to see the rock god. Our hero asks to go along, as he's got a ton of questions for that guy Mist. Hazam doesn't say no, but he insists that Senna comes along too. Our hero has no idea why she's being called in. But he promises that if Mist tries anything funny, he'll step in to protect her. To his surprise, the rock god tells him to drop that idea right now. He's no match for Mist. The truth is, even the rock god himself isn't sure he could beat the guy. And just as expected, Mist doesn't have a single scratch on him. He finally reveals his true form. He's actually a legendary elf. Not just any elf, but likely the very last survivor of a race that was abandoned by the gods. But what shocks the two of them even more is the discovery that Mist is actually the rock god's own master. Just moments ago, the rock god revealed that this guy is actually his master. The last surviving elf in the world, having lived for over 600 years. He's a legendary mage, so powerful that even the rock god himself can't lay a finger on him. The rock. God doesn't pull any punches and gets straight to the point. The old man hired those shady adventurers just to use them as cannon fodder for gold. In other words, he knew all along the dungeon was about to blow. The old geezer didn't even deny it. There had been plenty of warning signs lately from powerful monsters roaming free to frequent mutations. Everyone was confused. Why didn't he warn them so they could prepare? Little did they know, the old man knew a rampage was coming. But he had no idea if it would happen in 2.5 days, 2.5 weeks, or 2.5 months. An alarm with no specific timeline is basically useless. To make matters worse, the guild was actually trying to kick everyone out. The rock god suspected there was a dark secret behind it all. The old man finally came clean. The higher-ups had issued a total gag order. The order came from some big shot who runs all the guilds in the country. Normally, a dungeon outbreak lasts for days, and the monsters destroy every city in sight until the dungeon's mana runs out. But since the royal capital is miles away and safe, they didn't want to cause a panic by issuing a warning. Basically, this town was being treated as a sacrificial pawn. That's why the old man decided to take matters into his own hands. He pointed out the mysterious white spirits surrounding the town and proposed a deal to the rock god. The outbreak was just getting started. But adventurers can't fight 24/7 without sleep, so he needed the rock god to step up as the world's biggest power bank. Or rather, the person with the most mana on the planet. This was a job only he could do. Meanwhile, the old man would lead a team to the deepest level of the dungeon. Their goal was to take down the dungeon master. They already had a rough idea of its location, and once it's dead, this whole disaster would be over in a flash. Seeing the situation, the rock god agreed to the plan. Meanwhile, back outside, even powerful orcs had managed to break into the town.
To protect the civilians, the master and apprentice charged headfirst into the horde without a second thought. On the other side, the rock god stepped into the device the old man had set up beforehand. He was officially the battery now, but before he started, he made sure to warn our protagonist. He told him that even though they're working together, that old geezer is absolutely not to be trusted. With that, the rock god resolutely took his place in the formation. Suddenly, a massive pillar of light shot into the sky and spread out in every direction. Soon, the entire town was shielded by a protective barrier. The monsters were completely locked out. Not long after, Ronald led the charge to wipe out the remaining monsters inside. They all looked up at the barrier in awe. That's when the protagonist showed up to explain everything. Even though the rock god knew it was dangerous, he chose to save the town anyway. The barrier was being powered entirely by his own mana, and for a shield of this scale, the mana consumption was off the charts. Even with the rock god's massive reserves, he wouldn't be able to hold it for very long. Normally, when you run out of mana, you just pass out from exhaustion. But this time was different. That device will forcefully suck every last drop of mana out of you until you're dead. But as if things weren't bad enough, the legendary corpse vultures left the dungeon and started clawing at the barrier. This was draining his mana even faster, so they couldn't just let those vultures run wild. The group decided to step outside the safety of the shield, but the vultures were obsessed with destroying the barrier. Suddenly, the smaller monsters in front of them started backing away in fear. Everyone got a bad feeling at the exact same time, and they were right. A second later, a terrifyingly powerful Fenrir appeared out of nowhere. It's known as the fastest monster on Earth, moving like a bolt of lightning. Its power was easily on par with the corpse vultures. This was a total nightmare. Ronald realized they had to split up. He told the others to handle the Fenrir, while he went to take on the vulture solo. Seeing the Fenrir eyeing Ronald as he left, the little mage fired off a spell and successfully drew its aggro. The Fenrir lunged at her, but the protagonist jumped in just in time to block it. He even managed to match the Fenrir's insane speed with a burst of his own. Too bad our guy isn't exactly built for endurance. His speed started dropping almost immediately. In the blink of an eye, he was slashed by those razor-sharp claws. Zeke and the mage rushed in to keep the beast busy and buy him some time to heal. The battlefield was pure chaos. The Fenrir let out a howl to call its pack, and crows started falling from the sky, knocking the little mage back. Zeke got distracted for a split second and was slammed into the ground by the Fenrir. Senna saw this and one-shotted a crow, but when she turned around, Layla was already under fire. She was sent flying over 2.5 meters. Before Senna could even process that, she saw the Fenrir grab the protagonist in its jaws. He was tossed away like a rag doll. Come on, bring it on, show me the money. Humph, you're nothing but a speck of dust, just a speck of dust. I'd rather crumble into dust than lose to you. Good start, humans. And with that, Senna finally unleashed her true power. It looks like a big deal, but it's actually pretty weak. Once Fenrir starts fighting back, Senna gets totally shut down. She's completely helpless. Crack, crack. Suddenly, our main man jumps out of nowhere and sinks his dagger right into Fenrir's throat. He pulls off the kill. Turns out the sneaky guy had just been tossed aside earlier. Then he looks at Senna and says, he tells her to buy some time while he heals up. By the time Senna wakes up again, the danger is gone for now. And get this, the thing that saved everyone was that magic box Ronald was holding. Now we're just hoping that old geezer Mist can take down the dungeon master. At this point, we've got no choice but to trust them. But here's the kicker. Nobody saw coming. Hazam is a total snake. He waits until everyone lets their guard down, and pulls a fast one kidnapping Senna. He escapes through a portal right in front of everyone. The poor girl never saw it coming. Turns out the legends about Mist the evil dragon were actually true, but the reality is a bit different from the stories. Even a hero can't fully kill the evil dragon. 200 years ago, the hero could only drive it back. Every 200 years, that beast comes crawling back. And guess what? We're right on schedule for its resurrection. So all those weird things happening lately, those were warning signs. The dragon is waking up at the very bottom of the dungeon outside of town. Senna wonders where the hero is, but little does she know no hero is coming this time. Usually in every era, a hero is born just in time to face the dragon. But this time around, not a single person worthy of the title has shown up. Even if they can't kill it, there's still someone who can put the dragon back to sleep. And that's Senna. Her blue hair is the ultimate proof. The Sleeping Beauty from the legends had blue hair too, because the chosen girls always have their hair change color. But Mist isn't the one who wants to sacrifice Senna. The real mastermind is the kingdom's chancellor. That guy only cares about minimizing his losses. If he can save 51 people, he doesn't give a damn about sacrificing 49. He even ordered the town walls to be torn down because the dragon's return always creates a dungeon. Monsters will swarm out and attack the nearest town, and that's exactly what the Chancellor wants. Once the town is wiped out, everyone in the kingdom will be screaming for a solution. That gives the Chancellor a free pass to do whatever he wants. Whether it's lining his pockets or getting rid of his rivals, as long as he claims he's fighting monsters, nobody will dare to stand in his way. But here's the thing. The dragon chooses a different dungeon every time it comes back. Based on the mana levels and monster activity, this dungeon was flagged decades ago as the dragon's next landing spot. The Chancellor planned to use this place as a pawn from the start. But Mist had other ideas, which is why he secretly built a barrier device behind the Chancellor's back. He even made a deal with the Rock God. The Rock God acts like a giant battery to protect the town, while Mist goes off to kill the Dungeon Master. That would end the monster rampage early. The only problem if anything goes wrong, the Rock God's life is on the line. Ronald guesses that Mist is worried he might not be able to stop the dragon's resurrection. He'd take Cena just in case things go south. Long story short, if they want to kill the Dungeon Master, they have to head to the deepest part of the dungeon and gear up for the final showdown. But the problem is this dungeon hasn't been fully explored yet. If they want to save her, they have to take the risk. Obviously, no one's backing down. Everyone's fired up and ready to go. Meanwhile, Mist has already taken Cena to the bottom. The rest of the crew arrives at the dungeon, only to find that all the monsters have headed outside. The place is totally empty, which makes things easy for them. Suddenly, a Cyclops stomps past Senna. She's terrified this thing is an S-rank monster. Little did they know the Dungeon Master's temple was right ahead. But it doesn't take long for our hero and the gang to catch up. Seeing Cena right there, they both rush toward each other totally hyped. But the Cyclops steps right in the middle, blocking their path. Right then, something happened that nobody expected. Our guy takes down that massive Cyclops in just one single strike, one-shotted. Mist isn't surprised at all to see the hero. He just shoves Cena forward toward them. He explains that he hates the Chancellor's methods, even if it means risking Cena and the goddess. He even lured those low-life adventurers to town on purpose. But as long as they kill the Dungeon Master, there won't be any more deaths. However, the heavy lifting is up to them, because the elves just can't do it. Since they lost the god's favor, many races have already gone extinct. As one of the last elves, he'll probably face the same fate pretty soon. So if they want to save the world, they shouldn't rely on some old fossil like him. They have to do it with their own two hands. The gang still doesn't fully trust Mist, but they know that taking down the Dungeon Master is the only way to save everyone. Mist tells them that the dragon defeated 200 years ago is actually sleeping in another dimension. To come back, it needs a massive amount of mana. And that mana, it comes from all those monsters packed into the different layers of the dungeon. Those monsters are basically just manual labor for collecting energy. Then the Dungeon Master beams all that mana straight to the dragon. So if they can take down the Dungeon Master and cut off the power supply, they can stop the dragon from waking up and end this dungeon rampage for good. Little did they know, even if the Dungeon Master here is defeated, the evil dragon will just use other Dungeon Masters to get its strength back. Lyra is totally speechless. Like, are you serious? Does that mean they're just working for nothing? But if they can win this fight, they'll get something incredibly rare and precious. As time ticks away, Mist finally takes action to bait the Dungeon Master out. The little support mage uses her magic to keep the enemy pinned down from a distance. I just watch me die. I am on the sky. I just watch me die. Man, this power is freaking insane. I thought we could win, but I never expected it to be this easy. But just as the MC and Senna are busy making eyes at each other, things go sideways again. Hazam gets backstabbed by that sneaky dragon Mist, totally miscalculated this one. Before anyone realized it, the evil dragon had already gathered enough mana to revive. The monster threatens that if Mist wants to save Hazam, he has to hand over his own body. But Hazam is ready to face the end. He believes the world is way more important than his own life. Mist knows all too well that if he gives up his body, the dragon will definitely use him to pull off a full resurrection. Backed into a corner, Mist has no choice but to sacrifice Hazam. In return, he'll give it everything he's got to seal off the gateway between the two worlds for good. However, for just a split second, Mist hesitates. Even though it was only a moment, the dragon still found an opening. In the blink of an eye, its consciousness completely took over his body. The next second, all the mana in the entire dungeon is being sucked in like a vacuum. But the dragon's old remains still aren't enough to bring him back to full strength. Because of that, the evil dragon sets its sights on the town outside. Right then, the dungeon starts shaking violently once again. Monsters are swarming everywhere. There's no doubt about it, the second wave of the dungeon outbreak is about to hit. A massive horde of monsters is throwing everything at the barrier, and even that won't hold out for long. Hazam is in pretty bad shape too. The MC's healing magic can't easily fix the kind of wounds an evil dragon leaves behind. Yet Hazam's only wish is for the MC to forgive the old elf simply because that man was his savior. Being a dungeon orphan himself, the MC feels this deep down. There's no place in this world for people like them. They just get used until they're tossed aside. But the old elf was different. Back when Hazam was a nobody, that man taught him everything he needed to know to survive in this world. Even if it was just to hide the fact that he was an elf needing a human assistant to help out Hazam, is still grateful to him. Especially since the old elf wavered for a second, right before trying to kill him. That's when Hazam realized the guy actually cared about him. The MC tells him it's not just the elf he sees Hazam as a true friend too. Nothing's changed since they escaped together years ago. And little did he know, Hazam felt the exact same way. That's why he tried to chase the MC out of town before he didn't want him getting dragged into all of this. Sina calls him out for being self-righteous. Even if they were forced into this, because that prime minister is a piece of work he shouldn't have hidden everything, the MC would have regretted it for the rest of his life. The MC is totally stunned and tells her to stop talking. Hazam, on the other hand, decides to give up on the treatment, thinking this is the punishment he deserves. Sina acts all tough but has a soft heart. She calls him selfish, but then tells the MC to keep healing him. He has to stay alive so he can take responsibility for what he's done. To take the pressure off the magic circle, adventurers charge out of the barrier to fight for their lives. Even that greedy guy steps up to help out. Whoa! The MC refuses to watch the dragon devour his friends, leaving Sina with no choice but to watch everyone fight. The MC and the little mage pull off a combo. She uses her magic to blast some rocks, and the MC straight into the sky. A blinding light lasts for 12 hours. But the MC's cool guy moment only lasts 3 seconds before the dragon lands a heavy blow to his side. He falls from the sky, leaving a trail of blood everywhere. Seeing this, Sina is so furious, she can only stand there clenching her fists. Hazam tells her to go save him. If she doesn't go now, she'll definitely regret it later. Sina rushes to the MC's side, her heart breaking for him. But things go from bad to worse as the barrier starts to show signs of collapsing. If the battle keeps going, everyone's toast. Sina bravely decides she has to use the power of the Sleeping Beauty, even though she's told it'll only delay the world's end by 10 years. 10 years might not be forever, but it's definitely not a short time either. As long as the MC stays alive, he'll definitely be able to find the hero. Sina steps forward on her own, totally confusing the dragon. He never expected the Sleeping Beauty to just walk right up to him. He doesn't want to fall back asleep by eating her, but his hunger is just too strong to resist. Seeing Sina about to be hurt, the MC completely loses it and goes berserk. The dragon is absolutely shocked. He can't even sense the true nature of the MC's power. One thing's for sure, that is definitely not a power any human should have. Morisa. Everyone is freaking out right now. If he doesn't snap out of it and regain consciousness, he might never be able to turn back into a human again. Just as he's about to deliver the finishing blow to the evil dragon, Sina jumps in to stop him. She screams at the top of her lungs. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Morisa?" Seeing Sina's face finally brings him back to his senses, and he manages to find his true self once again. The evil dragon tries to take the chance to bolt, but the old elf forces control over his own body to pin it down, begging our hero to take the shot even if it means hitting him too. He's lived a long life and isn't afraid of death anymore. But seeing our hero hesitate, Sina steps up ready to carry that heavy burden right alongside him. Finally, the evil dragon is wiped out for now. The chaotic magic in the air starts to fade. The dungeon's rampage is about to settle down, and the world narrowly dodges total annihilation. In the end, the old elf passes away peacefully, and the goddess is finally relieved of her duties as a glorified human battery. The Chancellor is absolutely livid that his master plan was trashed. He still doesn't think our guy has what it takes to replace the true hero. With the old elf out of the picture, Tazam starts cooking up a new scheme. So that money-hungry receptionist ends up being the new branch leader. Hey, it is what it is. No matter what happens, I'll give my soul to the cause. Even so, our hero is still haunted by the fear that the evil dragon might wake up again someday. That's why he decides to hit the road and keep traveling until he finally tracks down the real hero. He asks Sina to go with him, and she's absolutely thrilled. There's no way she's saying no to that. After all, the whole reason she became an adventurer in the first place was just to be on his team. That's one thing that will never change.